disqualifies the candidacy of Mr. Osagie Ezeyamu's running mate in the Edo governorship election, Audu Ganiyu, saying he presented false information to INEC. So what does this mean for the APC's chances? We'll find out. And as a special public works program enters day 2 across the country, 2 issues stick out. Has the House of Reps finally given its blessing to the commencement of the scheme, and how well is it being implemented? And not forgetting the electricity tariff issue. Hello and welcome. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I am Kayode Okikiolu. It's a new year, quite all right, but let's be frank. This is merely a continuation of 2020 and all that played out last year. The issues didn't just disappear because we're now in 2021. And one of those carryovers, if you could use that term, is the aftermath of the Edo governorship election. If you followed the build-up to that election closely, then you must have figured out that the chapter may be far from closed, even with the announcement of the results by INEC and the swearing-in of the winner, Governor Godwin Obaseki, for a second term in office. Call it politicians' plan B, and you may not be wrong. There are still numerous cases in court surrounding the candidature of those who ran in the elections, and even the conduct of the election itself is being challenged at the tribunal, with some parties calling for the cancellation of the September 19th election and the conduct of a fresh poll. So that's where we begin tonight at the court. And let's walk you through some of those cases and the latest developments. Well, speaking of the latest, it is the Edo State High Court, which just moments ago voided the candidacy of Mr. Audu Ganiyu, who is the running mate to Mr. Osagie Ezeyamu of the All Progressives Congress in that governorship election. Well, a member of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, had filed a suit asking the court to disqualify Mr. Audu on the grounds of giving false information to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. So delivering judgment, Justice Courage Webo said Mr. Ganiyu presented false information in his Form EC9 to the INEC. So what does this mean for the party's chances in other pre-election litigations? A couple of questions come up. And tonight on the program, we'll be hearing from the man in the eye of a storm, the running mate to the APC's governorship candidates, represented by his lawyer. That will be in a moment. But don't forget, the candidate of the APC in the election, Mr. Osagie Ezeyamu, promised not to approach the election tribunal, but he said the pre-election litigations against the PDP will continue. By the way, there are 2 of them, while on the path of the PDP, there are set to be 13 pre-election suits against the APC and its flag bearer. So another of those numerous suits came up today, and this time in Abuja before Federal High Court in the FCT, where Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State closed his case on the ground that he does not need more witnesses to establish his innocence in the alleged certificate forgery suit filed against him by the APC and the chieftain of the party, Mr. William Edobo. Well, at the resumed hearing of a suit before Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, the defense concluded their case with the testimony of their third witness, Professor Egoza Osage of the Department of Comparative Politics at the University of Ibadan. Well, the certified true copy of the witness's political science certificate issued by the university as far back as 1979 was admitted as exhibit by the court, as they informed the court that the incomplete photocopied certificate presented to INEC by Mr. Obaseki does not invalidate the authenticity of the certificate. Well, they're back in court tomorrow for the adoption, of the written addresses. So while we keep our eyes on that story, well, let's get into our major discussion for tonight. The new year came with some mixed bag of events in the polity, and yesterday alone we saw 2 of them eliciting varying reactions from Nigerians. Now, one is the increase in the electricity tariff for what has been termed an adjustment, and the other is the commencement of the extended Special Public Works Program, which is meant to engage 774,000 unemployed Nigerians in some tasks, such as road maintenance, traffic control, street cleaning, and the likes, with a stipend of 20,000 naira paid them monthly over a period of 3 months. Now, a couple of grey areas remain for these two key developments, and we're out to sort of clear them tonight. So let's begin with the public works. That's right. There are still questions about whether or not the House of Representatives has withdrawn its resolution asking the minister to halt the process. By the way, we spoke to the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo SAN, about this yesterday. And here's what he had to say about some of the major developments we saw leading up to the commencement yesterday. Take a listen.
When we sat, there's a board of the NDE. The NDE has a board. I'm also the chairman of the board of the NDE. And there was also a committee set up, an interministerial committee that was set up as instructed by Mr. President to work out the modalities for execution. Of course, the NDE was to execute and as supervised by myself, the supervising minister, not just as instructed by Mr. President to supervise, but by law, by the NDE Act, the minister is an integral part of the NDE. So when some people were struggling to separate the minister for the NDE, I was just laughing. By law, the minister in the Act, the DG reports to him on a day-to-day basis. He's also chairman of the board. So it is a fruitless exercise to try to separate the minister by force from the NDE. It's impossible. So at the end of the day, when we sat, we took a decision and said, look, the way to go about this was to ensure that, look we put the selection process in the hands of local people, because the target audience in this case, the people who are to participate, the target participants, are people who don't have access to internet.
So that was part of his response yesterday. But the NDE Act is quite clear on the establishment and membership, as well as the functions of the board, which he referred to. It's also quite clear about the Director General of the Directorate and the power of the minister to give direction, as well as other issues. But that is just one side, really. What about the other side? So tonight, we hear from a member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Dachang Bagos, representing Jos Southeast in the House, joined us this evening via Zoom. And, well, you could see Mr. Ahmed Shajo, an APC chieftain, a former commissioner at Adamawa State, joining us from Abuja. But let's begin with Honorable Bagos, because this largely played out in the House of Representatives. So first, are you excited with the commencement of the Special Public Works Program?
Yeah, good evening, Nigeria, Kaide. To me, I won't say I'm excited because as a representative of the people, I still cannot identify how many of my people are part of the program. So as a representative of the people, I will need to know, because if we are talking of 1,000 people from every local government, and I represent 2 local government, and I cannot authenticate and tell you or even show you 100 out of 1,000, it's not something that I will need to be excited about. And this program has been politicized in a way that unfortunately the present administration has taken it as if it's an APC thing. But if we are talking about governance, it should go across party lines. It should go across religions or ethnic lines. Because we as members of the National Assembly, we have argued on this issue not once, not twice, that look, as the representative of the people, we know the locals. We know who you are going to give this to, not just to tell us that bring 10 people or bring 20 people to be part of the program. No, let's be part of the process. And that has been part of the issue the National Assembly members have been arguing upon. Because if we appropriate such funds, at the end of the day, and you tell us that we will not be part of that, sincerely, it's something that we are not happy about. And again, from what the minister said, that he's the chairman of the board, yes, everybody knows that board is an advisory body. It plays an advisory role, not implementation. So they need, and he needs to understand the difference of these 2 roles. That as a board and as a chairman of a board or board member, you are to advise. But implementation of any project and whatsoever you are doing, relies on whosoever is the DG or the executive secretary of whatsoever agency. And that's our argument that, look, this project and this public works have to do with our own people across party lines. And that's why the National Assembly spoke with one voice through emotion across party lines that, look, if you are talking of 1,000 persons from local government, then we should be able to identify such people.
Okay, we'll get into what the ND Act says in a moment, but let me just get this clear. Are you saying that the program has not commenced in Jos? Or you're saying you don't know those who are a part of the program in Jos? Which of them is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I have not seen or heard anyone that is my constituent that said that he has already benefited or participated or been paid or has been engaged in any way. I have not yet seen.
Have you reached out to the state coordinator of the NDE to find out if this is really the case?
Yeah, well, the state coordinator of the NDE in my state, it's someone that I know, the former SSG. When they asked us for nomination of 20 to 25 people, and even if from that, we have not yet heard of anything.
So you say authoritatively that the program has not begun in Jos. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it has started, maybe through another angle or another wing, but for me, definitely if it has started, there is no way that from my constituency I will not hear, or one or two people will not come and tell me, because we are with the grassroots people.
Right. So let's go back to what played out at the National Assembly, because it's quite important. There was a motion sponsored, interestingly, by a member of the APC, asking that the minister halt the process, that the Minister of Finance also not release funds. As it stands now, has the House given a go-ahead, as it were, to this program?
No, not at all, because I'm not aware that that motion has been recited, because once we have a resolution in the House, it stands as it is. And if the minister and the executive went ahead to implement such without the clarification that we need from the National Assembly, then it's unfortunate. I always say that most of the resolutions from the National Assembly, if the executive had followed the advice of the National Assembly in many motions that we have passed, we couldn't have been where we are today as a country.
On what grounds, really, is the House asking that this program be halted? You could refer to the ND Act, the Constitution, but on what grounds?
Yeah, Kayode, just like I said, that we cannot identify the people that are being engaged in these public works. We cannot say that this is who and who. And again, at what role? Are they just going to be receiving 20,000 for 3 months? And even after receiving 20,000 for 3 months, you have brought people together, 1,000 people together in a local government, collected 20,000 for 3 months. After the 3 months, then what? What are you going to do with those people that you have brought together as 1,000? If you don't know what and how you're going to engage them again after that 3 months, you are rather creating more nuisance than what you wanted to address. So there are a lot of critical issues that we are looking at the National Assembly that look. Yes, after 3 months of giving people 20,000, what next? Bringing them from allocating and getting them from each local government, the 1,000 people. What role are they going to play in the farm or in the local government, or are they going to teach in various schools? So these are issues that the National Assembly need answers. And that's why, and that's what the executive have not yet given us adequate and critical answer to some of these issues.
It's quite curious, Honorable, because the House actually the National Assembly appropriated the sum of 52 billion naira in the 2020 fiscal year for these programs specifically. So why didn't this come up in the process? Because there must have been some form of defense where you ask, how will this be done? So why now, after you have appropriated that amount?
Yeah, if you could recall the incidents that played out, especially when the House had a joint committee on this issue and the minister almost walked out. If you could recall what happened, those were the questions they wanted to ask. Those were the questions that, look, they need clarification on some of the issues. But unfortunately, it was taken other way around, that it's being called for executive session so that the honorable members and senators will ask for something different. But those are critical issues, because proposal will be brought for certain issues, but implementation is another way around. So when you don't have those issues and you brought in a proposal that looks very beautiful and very good, and it has been appropriated, we need to know how the engagement will look like. And unfortunately, those are issues and questions that even us, we have been asking.
Because part of the argument of the minister is that you have appropriated this, you have given it to the executive to execute. So why, according to him, interfere or try to also be a part of the execution of this program?
Well, I don't see that as interference, Kayode. If you give your wife 1,000 naira in the morning to buy to make soup for you in the evening, and by noontime she's still complaining that, look, she don't understand what kind of soup you want or how you want it to be done, it becomes a problem and a question for you as well. So a lot of questions that we have been asking, yes, we have appropriated. The role of the National Assembly is to oversight on every kobo that has been allocated and appropriated. We cannot just appropriate certain amount of money and we'll just give you and allow you to just go and execute. No, we must know what you have done and what you are going to do and how you are going to execute it.
You know, that analogy is quite interesting, because it would imply that the legislature is the husband and the executive the wife in this case. But let's quickly take a look at what the ND Act says regarding the roles of the minister. And in section 15, that talks about the power of the minister to give direction. You say it's sort of to advise. I'm not sure the term you use, but the Act clearly says that the minister may give to the board direction of a general nature with respect to any of the functions of the board or the directorate, and it shall be the duty of the board to comply with such directions or cause them to be complied with. So clearly, I don't know how you'll interpret this. So let me just ask, how do you interpret that section?
Yeah, well, the laws were made by the National Assembly as it is. But even in giving the direction, you know that there is a difference between direction and implementation. I can tell you, I can direct you to go and do something, but I will not tell you how to carry it and how to execute it as well. It has to go through your own mandate that you already have. But well, I'm not speaking for NDE, and I will be able to speak for NDE. But clearly, what we said and what we are standing on is that, look, NDE has its own role, just like you have rightly said. Yes, giving directions, but not implementation. Those are two different areas entirely. So, but if the ministry wants to give direction at the same time, want to implement, and at the same time want to execute, at the same time carry, then invariably no need for NDE to be in place. But we know the importance of NDE. We know what NDE has done in so many years, even before this present administration. We believe that if they are being given a free hand to execute whatsoever program that has been allotted and allocated to them, definitely the execution will be very positive.
Well, Honorable Bagos, we're due for a break in a moment, but some issues remain, really. Don't forget the Honorable Minister spoke about 10% or 15% of those jobs allocated to the National Assembly. So what is the fate of that now? What is the state with the commencement? Did you really get those allocations? And we'll also expand this conversation further, because it would seem this is a party thing. The House has seen the APC and the PDP speak jointly on this. So we'll hear from the APC also regarding this issue. We have Mr. Ahmed Shadro, an APC chieftain, joining us from our Abuja studio. So stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We're still discussing major issues in the polity in this new year. It's just 6 days and a lot of things have played out already. Now let's lead back to one of the major stories we brought you earlier on, and that concerns the case of the well, the running mate to the flag bearer in the Edo 2020 governorship election. As you could see, a court in Edo State has disqualified Mr. Eze Iyamu's running mate in that election, and it centers around false information given to INEC in a certain form that was presented. Really, it's quite a lot. So let's try to give you some context and explain what exactly played out at the courts earlier today. And we have joining us via phone a lawyer to the running mate to Mr. Eze Iyamu in that election, and I'm talking about Mr. Audu Geniyu. His lawyer joins us this evening. His lawyer, Mr. Austin Case, joins us via phone. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the program.
Well, let me first ask you for your reaction to this judgment, because there's been a lot of reactions, really, from different people. But, I mean, since you're close to the case, how do you react?
Well, my reaction is, first, I am disappointed. I'm disappointed in that the facts that are so clear could be somersaulted and come to a decision that is more or less like walking from an answer to a question. I said this with all sense of responsibility. The case, first and foremost, was fought on the basis that the court lacked jurisdiction to entertain the suit, having been filed out of time. The court agreed that it was a pre-election matter. So as it is a pre-election matter, the provisions of Section 285(9) of the Constitution applies to it. Now, from EC9 of the first defendant, that is the running mate of the APC in the last election, was received by INEC on the 29th of June 2020. All the parties were agreed on this. By Section 31(3) of the Electoral Act, INEC had 7 days within which to publish that personal affidavit of personal particulars. INEC, the claimant said INEC published on the 6th of July. And we said INEC published on the 2nd of July. The claimant did not call any witness. He didn't call anybody from INEC, but we did. We filed a subpoena on INEC. INEC produced a document which was admitted in evidence as VW1, where they stated categorically that they published the personal particulars of the candidates for that election on the 2nd of July, 2020. We called another INEC staff, a lawyer, who gave oral evidence that the publication was made on the 2nd of July, 2020. So they filed on the 17th. If you count from 2nd of July, 14 days, it will stop on the 15th of July. And the action was filed on the 17th, which was clearly out of time. The Supreme Court has said in a number of cases, one of which is Modibo versus Usman, that the cause of action arises from the actual date of publication. Now, the claimant relied with the lawyer tendered from the bar after they had even closed their case, and said because the timetable said that the publication will be done on the 6th of July, so they start to reckon from the 6th of July. Then we said, okay, no problem. If you even the 7 days mandatory period, because if you count from the 29th of June, the 7th to have published on the 6th of July. Then
Okay.
She expunged the INEC document from her records. She expunged the evidence of INEC witnesses and relied on the evidence of the claimant himself, who called no witness, to say that the cause of action was raised on the 6th of July, and so the action was not started bad. That is in terms of the criminal objection that we raised.
Well,
On the merit of the case,
right.
we had a deep poll, because that was the decision of the Supreme Court in the Bayelsa case. we had a deed poll which the Supreme Court issued on the 16th of July, 2020. The action was filed on the 17th of July, 2020. Then she said their case was that, oh, that deed poll was prepared in the course of litigation. We said, no, there's no way our clients would have known that you're going to file an action against him on the 17th of July. It was obvious on the face of the document. It was admitted in evidence that the Supreme Court issued it on the 16th of July.
I know you want to walk us through what exactly happened, I mean, from inception to this moment, but clearly you're saying that you're not pleased with this judgment. Am I right?
No, we are not satisfied with the judgment. As far as I'm concerned, the lifespan of that judgment is less than 60 days. It is a 9 days wonder, and it is reversible and shall be reversed.
Okay, we'll touch on that reversal process. Pardon me, we'll touch on that reversal process, but some are couching this as devastating for your client. I believe you have spoken to him. How is he taking this?
No. We have been discussing. We have met. We have started the process. Immediately we asked for the judgment. The judge said the judgment will be ready on Monday. And we have 14 days. But because we were present in court, we have started preparing our papers. And we are certainly going to appeal the judgment. We have discussed with our clients. We have consulted and we have agreed that we are starting the process of the appeal immediately.
You know, I recall that the APC last year defended your client, saying that the name description of Abudu Ganiyu Audu contained on his educational qualifications submitted to INEC for that election correctly belongs to him. If you could just quickly explain what played out with that name and how the court decided on it, briefly.
Good. You see, our client himself came to court. He gave evidence and said those names are his names and that they are Muslim names and they mean one and the same thing. They mean one and the same thing. That because of the Supreme Court position in the Bayelsa case, he had to apply for reconciliation of names. He never shied away from it. They are his names. They are his names. That the documents were not false. They are his documents. And we, apart from that, the Supreme Court has held in a number of cases that the fact that you abbreviated your name, Ganiyu is the full name, which you abbreviated to Gani. And the Supreme Court has said in a number of cases that abbreviation of names is not wrong. There are cases to that effect. But she just heard that because those names were there, is a forged document. Even the claimant will raise the issue. The claimant himself, his name on the PDP membership card and his name on his voter's card did not tally. They didn't tally. Even the claimant himself. We showed it in court. It was clear.
So clearly this is not over for you or your clients?
No, certainly not.
Well,
certainly not. He's in high spirits. He's not downcast at all because we know that it will not stand.
Well, we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Case, who is the counsel to Mr. Audu in that particular case. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the program.
Thank you for having me online.
So let's return to our discussion before the break. We still have joining us Honorable Dachung Bagos, representing Just Southeast in the House. He's a member of the PDP. He joins us virtually. And Mr. Ahmed Shajo, an APC chieftain and former commissioner in Adamawa State. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your patience. So, Mr. Shajo, I was going to come to you right after the break before we took on Mr. Case. So, clearly, this has generated a lot of controversy. But the interesting thing, really, Mr. Shajo, is the fact that there seems to be some form of consensus in the House of Representatives across party lines. In fact, the member that sponsored the motion asking to halt this process is a member of your party. So really, as a party, how do you respond to this sort of back and forth between the Minister of State and the House of Representatives?
Very, 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 very simple. Let me tell you, very honestly, that we just argue in politics. We are not arguing facts. And the facts are very clear. First and foremost, the Minister of State, for example, said this commencement date for this process is 21st of January. So anybody asking you whether it has commenced today actually is not working on facts. That's number one. Number two, the facts are that local committees in all the states of the Federation selected the people. And in states, and the state governments are actively involved. So in states where PDP is in power, PDP members who are members of the state administration participated in the process of the selection. So it was a bipartisan thing. It was not, in fact, it was a multi-partisan thing, because in places where, like Anambra, where ABGA is in control, ABGA members who are in the government of Anambra State participated in the selection process. So the thing is to say that, people must know these people. I think it's where we're getting it wrong. The most important thing is that the 1,000 people that will be selected from every local government, are they Nigerians? Are they eligible for this? Will they participate in this process? Will their participation actually advance the process? These are the issues we need to ask ourselves. Let me very respectfully, show my respect to the members of the National Assembly, but to also advise them very sincerely that some of the things they are asking are things they themselves should be the first people to actually comply with what they are asking others to do. If the role of the board is to oversight on the management, and if members of the National Assembly believe that that oversight function does not involve participation in the implementation process, then the role of the legislature is to oversight on the activities of the executive. That oversight should also not include knowing who is there, how is the person selected, and the rest. I think we should insist that Nigerians, eligible Nigerians all over the country, should be the ones that should benefit from this process. And then the most important thing that we will all stand by in this process is how sustainable is the process beyond the 2, 3, 4, 5 months that we're talking about. Will it be sustainable? Will there be a window for these people to specialize in the areas they are going to perform, and begin to be engaged beyond just this ad hoc arrangement? What are we doing about it? Are we going to create an atmosphere, a situation where this becomes a window for the employment of these people permanently into the system, so that we will all, we will all be better off for it? I think saying I must know who is appointed, who is not appointed, I must know who is working, who is not working. We have reached a point in our history where Nigerians must do away with political leaders having to know those that are going to be engaged in any kind of responsibility. We must be able to put Nigerians to work for us as Nigerians, regardless of whether they know somebody or somebody knows them. This issue of give me a percentage, this person must be given this percentage, these are the kind of things that are actually drawing us back. People should be engaged on the grounds that they are qualified for what they are supposed to do, and that we must encourage a system that sees every Nigerian as a Nigerian. Not that a Nigerian who knows a legislature has a higher status than a Nigerian that does not know a legislature. That a Nigerian who knows a minister or a Nigerian who knows a local government chairman has a higher status than a Nigerian that knows nobody. So please, let us look at it very dispassionately. This public works engagement should commence in earnest. The people must be given a direction to do the job in the manner that is envisaged in the policy document, and then the implementation process must be in such a way that it can be monitored, it can be evaluated by everybody, including, of course, most importantly, those of us in the media. We have a responsibility as the fourth estate of the realm to oversight over both the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It's our own responsibility to make sure that if the list says 1,000 people are engaged, we need to do an oversight, as citizens, as media, as civil society group. We must do the oversight to ensure that 1,000 people are engaged in every local government, not that 1,000 list of people are engaged on paper. And
well,
then
Mr. Shajo, if I can come in here.
On the field. So all of these things, these are the germane questions
Okay, if I can come in here,
questions we must ask ourselves.
We'll get Honorable Bagos to respond to some of the issues you have raised. But regarding the commencement, when you say that, I mean, he probably would not know. I mean, this is someone who is expected to be in touch with the grassroots. If there are 17 local government areas in Plateau State, that's 17,000 people. I mean, he has a considerable number of local governments under his representation, as it were. So he should know. So don't you think he's in a better position to know if this has commenced really or not?
Are you saying he has control over time? When the implementers of the project said it will start on the 21st, and today is 6th, and you are asking that we want to see it happen. I mean, are we in control of time as well? You know, there are things that are beyond politics, for crying out loud. You know, the minister was even categorical that after the Federal Executive Council meeting today, he will roll out the further, information on the commencement and on the process of the commencement. That has not taken place, and somebody is saying it has not started. Look, let us be very honest with ourselves. Yes, the engagement process would have commenced. The compilation, the documentation must have been done. The selection must have been done. That these are clear-cut documentation processes that can be verified by anybody. But the commencement of the work itself is according to what the minister said we will start. And that is when it is going to start. That's when we're going to see the people on the field. And I am sure that for it to commence properly, all the planning and all the documentation, all the policy options would have been weighed adequately and properly, and then probably the implementation process would involve certain, identifiable characteristics, maybe reflective jackets in some instances, and the rest, and then we will all see them on the field. It is when the commencement, the thing has commenced, the work on the field has commenced, and you don't see anybody, then you begin to complain that I have not seen anybody. But at this point, it's a point of documentation. All the documentation points, I am sure, must have all the documents for you to go and oversight. And it's very simple. And like you said, the legislature appropriated. And before they could pass their appropriation process, all the questions they are supposed to ask, they should have asked. This, our own politics of grandstanding, of going to the media to do things that we should have done within our offices, within the chambers of our legislature, within the offices of our ministries, and I think we must begin to learn to do things differently. Doing things differently means we would do the job that is supposed to be done within the confines of the office that are allocated to us. We do them there. The ones that we are supposed to do in public domain, we do them there. But we're mixing them.
Let's get Honorable Bagos. Right. Let's get Honorable Bagos to respond to some of the issues you have raised. Well, Honorable Bagos, you've listened to Mr. Shajo. Does that clarification, does it suffice for you?
Yeah, and my elder from Adama, although I couldn't get his first phase of contribution because of the audio, but I got the last part. But at least from the last part, what I got from him is that, you see, as of today, the army recruitment that is ongoing, which I don't know if the army did anything, but I can categorically tell you the names and phone numbers of people that were shortlisted from my constituency. The fact that I did not even do anything, but I can show you the people that were shortlisted through army, the people that were shortlisted even through civil defense, that they are doing their screening from my own constituency. But I cannot categorically tell you the 1,000 people in my constituency today that have been shortlisted for this program. So it's a reason for concern. So it's not even about an issue that the National Assembly, just like you said, the minister is saying that they've given National Assembly 10% or 15%. No, nobody is asking for 10% or 15%. What we are asking of is, who are those 1,000 people? Who will genuinely get, what are they going to be doing? How are they going to be engaged? And after the engagement, what will they be doing? Because it's very dangerous for you to even put salt in somebody's mouth to enjoy the taste of salt, and after 3 months, there is no more salt for him to enjoy. And after the tenure of this administration, you will now say that you have employed and given employment opportunity to 170,000 people across across the country, when it was a part-time job, as far as I'm concerned. So these are issues that we want to know.
Okay.
You cannot call these public works of 3 months as job opportunities. You cannot call money market as job opportunities, because these are issues that we clearly need to know. If you are giving them grants to go and farm, or you are giving them grants to go and start business, that is a very different issue. But you cannot say that you are giving people employment and you will just pay them for 3 months.
Okay,
it's not realistic.
Honorable Bagos, Mr. Shadjo, we're due for another break. So, pardon me, you'll get to land on that when we return from this break. Don't worry, it's a short one. So, gentlemen, stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Honorable Dachang Bagos, a member of the PDP and, of course, a representative in the House of Reps, still with us tonight, as well as Mr. Ahmed Shadjo, a chieftain of the APC and the former commissioner in Adamawa State. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. So this is the final lap, really. So, Honorable Bagos, I'll let you land on that statement you began just before we went on the break. But add to it something Mr. Shadjo said. He was implying that there's a procedure to this. So the fact that you say maybe you have not seen anyone or you don't know anyone does not necessarily mean that the program will not commence or has not commenced. So are you willing to be patient for maybe a few days and get back to the state ND coordinator for any development? Is that something you're willing to do?
Yeah, well, you see, there is this Hausa adage, which I will translate to you in English, that before you see the next 2 days, you start seeing it for today. If not, the National Assembly had intervened or even said that the project should be suspended, the executive had put a date of execution. So before then, we have not even seen the process or even procedures, because they were talking of maybe next week it will start. But before then, we have not even seen how it's going to be implemented. So it's a thing of concern to us that 1 week to the time and date you say you're going to start this program, we don't know how, we don't know the people you have shortlisted. You have not, if it is a job opportunity, have you even opened up a portal that people should go and apply, or so on and so forth? Or you just go and give some political stakeholders from one side party form for people to fill? Now, these are critical issues that was why we stopped. So I didn't mean we saw, like I gave example with the army or civil defense or whatever recruitment. It's a transparent process that people go and apply, they go for screening, and the shortlisted people are being displayed. So we have not seen that. We will just hear that the project and the program will start next tomorrow. We don't know who are the people. We don't know how did they come about getting those people. What was the screening process? Who and who? How were they qualified? So these are issues that we need to ask. And if you are saying that that's a job opportunity, now these are, even if it is a grant, what was the process that you were able to come about to get and to give these people grant? 52 billion is not a joke. And as representatives of the people that we have always talked about, we need to know some. So if we are asking genuine questions, the executive shouldn't see and look at it as if we are fighting the executive. No, we want to know that if this project and program is for the well-being and well-being of Nigerians, let it have the impact that it is required. Because to take 52 billion for such a project, come on, we need something that Nigerians will be proud of, that Nigerians will know that through this program and through this project, something will be done. And when we started raising questions, the NDE coordinator was removed. Someone that have started, so the person that will come in newly will start all over again. Or is it the minister that said have powers to execute the program will continue from the program also? So a lot of issues that the executive need to answer. And that's why the National Assembly is so keen. And that's why us members, we are so keen about knowing, because 1,000 people in our constituency is not a joke, right?
Okay, before I get back to Mr. Shaju, let me just quickly get your response to something the minister said about the 10%, 15% allocation to the National Assembly. Are you saying that you rejected that because earlier on you said it's not about that?
We should not mistake. We should not take this as a joke. That look, you are giving 10% to the National Assembly members or 15% to National Assembly members. As what? 10% as what? On what grounds? All we want is that let the screening process of these 1,000 people be open. When we have a portal, we will tell our constituents, go and apply. We will tell our constituents, the qualified people, go and what are the criteria. It's not about bringing that you're saying that you're giving National Assembly members 10 or 15%. For what? Even if you give National Assembly members 90%, we want to know what is the criteria, how is the screening process going on, who are those genuine people that will be part of this process, and
just
how
to be clear,
will they be engaged?
Are you rejecting that allocation or not? Are you saying you don't want the 10 to 15% or 90%? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying rejecting or accepting. And by the way, I will not accept something that I don't understand the process. So why will you just rise up and tell me you have given me 10 or 15% without knowing how transparent it is? If I collect it without that, that's an act of corruption. So if we are talking that this government is fighting corruption, let the process be transparent, let the process be corruption-free, and we know that, look, whosoever is partaking and whosoever is part of this project and part of this process will get something that will benefit him and will lift his baseline from the poverty line. Over 90 of Nigerians are poor. So we need to really show the transparency that we are talking of, that we want to fight corruption.
Okay, Honorable Bagos, hold on for a moment. Let me get Mr. Shaju's response to some of the issues you have raised. So this is like our final moment on this topic before we quickly touch on something else. So any final words really on this? Because clearly we have 3 months for the implementation of this, and 774,000 unemployed Nigerians are meant to benefit from this. So your final words on this?
My final word is simply that the process was transparent. You know, I know the people that constituted the selection committee in my own state. I know that the people of integrity, and I know that they cut across the party lines, because my state actually now is under a PDP government, but the state government also is participating very actively in the process. And I also know for certain that the people that are being recruited are Nigerians, and I know for certain that the people that are being recruited deserve to be recruited, and I know for certain that this process has been conducted in such a manner that will benefit not just the beneficiaries, but it also will benefit the communities because of the kind of services they are going to render. I insist that what is most important is that the template for the process must contain within it a process that can enable monitoring and evaluation of what is going to take place. And by the time the program commences fully, and that the people recruited begin to perform their responsibilities, we must have a monitoring mechanism to make sure that it is doing what it was intended to do. But as far as the selection process is concerned, I can tell you that because I know at least the ones that are doing the selection in my state, I know that the process is open and that the process is in the interest of ordinary people who do not need to know anybody in power before they are recruited to participate in this job. But again, on a very final note,
right,
both the executive, the legislature, and all of us that are involved, including those of us in the media and civil society, must make sure that we press for sustainability. It should not be an ad hoc thing. It should not be a temporary thing. It should be something that should be sustainable. And so we must expand our budgetary provisions to make sure that we carry this, the people that are going to be recruited, beyond the period that is being discussed at present.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's quickly touch on another issue that affects a lot of Nigerians, and that's power. electricity. So, Honorable Bagos, your party, the PDP, has spoken against, the recent, is it adjustments, is it hike in tariff for electricity? In fact, your party specifically says it is insensitive, anti-people, and will worsen the economic hardship being faced by Nigerians at this time. Speaking of Nigerians, a lot of them are looking maybe to the National Assembly, to the House of Representatives for some sort of succor. What can you do to help out? Because I remember during the lockdown, the House muted this idea of giving palliative in terms of electricity to Nigerians. So really, what can the House do to come to the rescue, if I could use that expression, of Nigerians for this one?
Fortunate. And even on the last note, on the last discussion, I wouldn't want to accept the process of this public work as recruitment, but I think it's just a screening process to receiving grant. Because as recruitment, I don't know what appointment letters will be given. And on the tariff issue as well, it's quite unfortunate that in January that we are facing this issue, and we are just coming into January, and the poor Nigerians are being faced with the issue of tariff increment. And let me tell you something, Kayode. The majority of people that pay bills, light bills, are the poor. The big people you have and the big industries, go and check the statistics with some of these discos. You will see that the people that are owing them are the big industries, the big people, and so on. The people that pay this NEPA they pay the light bill on daily or weekly and monthly basis are the poor. When you see how they are cutting their lights on daily basis, and they are the same people that you are trying to increase tariffs on what they are paying, come on, it's very insensitive. It's not something that someone will really accept and someone will follow to say that it's what we need to. If they need to generate IGR and they need to look at how Nigeria will get adequate power, I think it's high time that the Nigerian government needs to think of how to diversify.
Okay, Honorable Bagos, I was really hoping you tell us, something maybe that the House of Reps can do to intervene in this, seeing the outcry from a lot of Nigerians. But clearly this conversation is far from over. So let me bounce this off, Mr. Shadjo, on a final note. A lot of Nigerians have looked through the 9-point agenda of the president, and they don't see anything like that. In fact, what they see is reducing poverty. So when they see a report such as this, they wonder, how do you factor this into that 9-point agenda? If you could just put your response in less than a minute.
Yeah, in less than a minute. Very good. You see, the thing is that we have actually boxed ourselves into a corner. The people that sold out power to private hands in this country have boxed us into a corner. These things are in the hands of private individuals. And there's no way you can tell private individuals that they can continue to sell whatever is the product that they sell to the public as private individuals without factoring inflation, without factoring increase in certain operational costs. I think our biggest mistake, is the fact that we sold off the power sector. This power sector should have remained in the hands of government so that government would have control, so government will continue to actually subsidize the operations of the power sector. But when it is in the hands of individuals, when you are subsidizing the power, you're not subsidizing to the people. You're actually empowering the people that have bought these power sectors, and it's serious. Definitely, any increase in tariff will weigh heavily on the people. But there is very little you can do when you privatize a system without
Mr. Shadjo,
putting structures that will safeguard the interests of ordinary people.
Just like power, we don't have unlimited supply of time, and we have run out of time tonight on the program. But I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Shadjo, an APC chieftain and former commissioner in Adamawa State. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, as well as Honorable Dachang Bagos, a member of the PDP and a representative in the House of Reps. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Well, that's the program. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.